Hey there, I was looking over this recording and I've noticed that I say the words "you know" a lot, I apologize in advance because I was just casually rambling without a script or anything, apologies if it annoys you a little bit, but sorry, here we go. So we've reached the end of 2018 and I wanted to take this chance to, just casually reflect on the progress I've made this year. We're just gonna take a look at each of the core videos I've released in 2018 and talk about, my thoughts on making them and what I felt could have been better, stuff like that. But before we do that, I just wanted to, quickly reflect on my thoughts on the channel this year and my hopes for next year. So before we begin, just, apologies for my rambling because I'm not talking to a script and, just here we go. So I feel like 2018 is a pretty interesting year because, last year I wanted to try changing the direction of my channel, so I started making core videos, and they've been met with really positive reception. I now have 27,000 subscribers. Whether you're just new to this channel or you've been watching for the past 10 years of my history, I just want to thank you guys a lot because, even though I might not have as much time to, make YouTube videos compared to other YouTubers that are out of college, I'm not. I'm still glad that you guys still enjoy what I put out. So I really want to, just keep trying my best and try to improve my craft as time goes on. So I feel like this year, 2018, has been more of an experimental phase in terms of core videos. I mean, we've got some more humor-oriented videos, some stuff that's more informative, and some reviews in the mix, something like that. And I still the majority of the stuff on my channel is still Nintendo stuff. But I particularly like talking about obscure or weird Nintendo things, or just video game stuff in general. So I feel like that's something I still want to stick to. But I still kind of like, the anything goes nature of my channel. I could really just talk about anything I wanted to share with you guys, so, keep an eye out for some more weird topics in the future. And speaking of the future, I wanted to give you guys a small taste of what I'm going to be doing for the most part in 2019. Now, the examples that I'm going to put up on screen are not definitive confirmations of videos, topics, or that I'll be doing. They're just, they're just that, examples, but So, we haven't seen every weird and obscure thing Nintendo has to offer. Of course, I'll still be doing, obscure Nintendo hardware, as well as even some unofficial stuff, bootlegs and other accessories, stuff like that. Those things are really fun to look at, so, and not a lot of people know about them, so it's great to, spread the word, put these out there, see what people think of them. Also, next year, I want to try making more videos that focus on certain games. Now, a lot of people have asked me, AK, why don't you, just do review videos on new games that have been released, just review Smash Ultimate, WarioWare Gold, stuff like that. And I mean, no, nothing wrong with that, talking about a new game gives you more relevance, but, I want to try doing something more special than just, talking about my thoughts on a new game. And I usually just share my thoughts on Twitter anyway. So usually if I want to, talk about a specific game in a core video, I usually want to try, analyze it, try to look at it from a unique perspective, or share some history about it. Maybe I want to, bring some attention to an obscure game that I found that I think it's worth a look at, or just, share some forgotten bits of the past that you might, bring back some memories for some people. I think those things can also make for pretty interesting video material as well. Alright, I think I'm done rambling about my plans for 2019, so let's just get back to 2018. So we're gonna take a look at the core videos I've made this year so I can talk about what I thought about them, or maybe even share some insight into them as well. So here we go. So starting off with a look at the Virtual Boy. Now, a Virtual Boy video was something that I've been meaning to make for a while now, even before I started making core videos. Now the thing is, there are already quite a few fantastic videos out there on YouTube about the Virtual Boy. The Angry Video Game Nerd, just craps on the Virtual Boy and its games. And then the Gaming Historian made a really good video on the history of the Virtual Boy. So with this core video, I wanted to focus more on the experience of actually owning and playing on a Virtual Boy, because that's something I was actually really intrigued about before I ever even got my hands on one. So I wanted to, talk about some of my interesting small findings while playing with the system myself, like if the 3D effect is actually as bad or nausea inducing as people make it out to be, or some small details like the D-pads having a larger curvature because it makes for easier movement in the 3D space. And yeah, I feel like these are interesting perspectives on the Virtual Boy that not a lot of people have explored before. And in that video, I also talked about my experiences with 4 of the games in its library. So Mario's Tennis, Mario Clash, Wario Land, and V Tetris. Now, I feel like I've covered a pretty solid base. I mean, you can't have a Virtual Boy video without Wario Land or Mario's Tennis, the launch title, stuff like that. But there's still a lot of games I have yet to cover, and those were the only 4 games I had at the time of that video. And since then, I've only bought 1 new game for the Virtual Boy, which is Red Alarm, just a few days ago actually. But it's definitely I definitely want to revisit with more games in the future should I ever get my hands on more games. So look forward to that, I guess. I don't know. So overall, I felt that this was a really solid core video. I took a pretty close look at the gameplay for each of the 4 games, talking about my experiences and thoughts about them, and had some decent gags thrown in there because of my first time experience with these games, and it overall resulted in a pretty good Virtual Boy video that wasn't just red and black graphics. It gives me headaches, bad. So yeah. Next up, we have the Tiny Arcade PacMan review. Now, I admit that this was a more of a small-scale filler project, because like I said in the video, I just saw this at a store, was very intrigued by it because I have never seen it before, bought it, played for it a little bit, scattered my thoughts about it, and just churned out a video within the next day or so. So, but I felt like this was like a perfect subject for a new video. I mean, this could probably be a Things of Interest episode, but I haven't started that series when I made this video, so yeah. I mean, anything that's like niche or a novelty kind of item that's even like related to retro gaming is like a big fascination for me, and I just want to make like a video just to show you guys this thing because it looks ridiculous, but it's actually functional, barring a few downsides like the speaker doesn't have a volume control, stuff like that. And I feel like I wanted to address these points in the review, so whether you see this out in the wild, you can make up your mind on whether or not to get one, because these things interest me and I think it may interest you too. So there you go. So overall, it's a fine small video if you think of it as like a Things of Interest episode. And I see in the comments like some people have never heard of this until I made a video about it, so I guess it did its job pretty well. Next, we have Finding Mario Odyssey's Hidden Hint Art, and yeah, this is another small scale video, because I'm pretty sure at that time I was buried in college work. But I still think that this was a pretty unique idea, because once I heard the news that data miners have found some unused hint art in Mario Odyssey, I thought to myself, what if I try to solve these unsolved puzzles by myself, actually with the help of a few people, because I'm not the brightest person. But I think that there was another YouTube channel that also made a video on speculating about these unreleased hint art at that point, but I'm pretty sure my video came first, so that's something, I guess. And since then, Nintendo has actually released all of the hint arts shown in this video as bonus content for Mario Odyssey, so I'll actually be making a video trying to follow up on my speculations previously, because some of those solutions were really clever and kind of went over my head. So it'll be interesting to see what I got right and what I got wrong. Alright, the next big core video, WarioWare Smooth Moves. My god, this game was underrated. It always kind of felt to me that, despite being a part of the Wii's early library, not a lot of people actually talked about smooth moves, even in the context of their most favorite WarioWare game. And it's probably because of the stigma that people have against motion control / waggle whenever they think about the Wii. But the WarioWare Smooth Moves was the one game that perfectly uses the Wii Remote's motion controls, with the whole form things, with different ways to hold the Wii Remote or a nunchuck. So I wanted to use stuff showing my hand in off-screen footage just to demonstrate how creative the developers can get by designing around some of these forms. And I also wanted to bring some focus to the presentation of the game, because it's probably one of my most favorites in the WarioWare game. I mean, I've read some, reviews of Smooth Moves, and people are like, oh my god, they're simple polygons, they're way too ugly for the Wii. And I'm like, that's the point, it's WarioWare, it's supposed to be weird and clunky. So even though it might not be a perfect game with, the motion control accuracy and all that, I feel like it best conveys the spirit of WarioWare, which is the main focus of that video. So overall, this is a very solid video. Like, the only thing I might have kind of regretted is like I couldn't really compare it to Warrior Twisted, which I think a lot of people want to see, because you know, at the time of that video, and even still today, I haven't really played a lot of Twisted because I don't have a physical copy, and playing that emulated on a phone, on a computer or whatnot is just not the intended experience. So maybe I'll get to play it someday and make my own decision about it, who knows. But, you know, if I wanted to make a core video on a specific game, like I said, this is probably the format I would want to follow more. Next up, we have the hoaxes of Pablo Belmont. Now this one is a big one. And this one is a more informative kind of video rather than focusing more on humor or my subjective thoughts, because my main focus with this video is just to bring Pablo Belmont's works to light. Like, when you think about it, Pablo Belmont is a really fascinating subject, you know. Not many people have heard about him or, you know, all of his works, but they might have had some experience of seeing some of his works during the early days of the internet. Like, you know, I might have stumbled across the Mario Galaxy DS video, or some people might have seen the Majora's Mask 3D video, but they might not know that they're all made by the same person. And I also wanted to talk more about the histories as well as the small details about these videos, because very little information is actually available outside from the videos themselves. So you've got a lot of very intriguing details or stories behind these pretty infamous hoax videos, like, you know, how Mario Galaxy DS actually references some parts of the E3 demo of Mario Galaxy to make it more believable, as well as the whole Majora's Mask thing that spiraled into a whole project to remake it in VR and 3D, until it ended when Nintendo made a remake of their own. So like, these are all very fascinating stories that not a lot of people know about, because they're probably only found on Pablo Belmont's website, which is in Spanish, and I just want more people to know about him and his work, because he is definitely a very talented individual. Like, he's doing some pretty great 3D modeling jobs now. And to think that he actually got his start by making these early internet hoax videos that some of us actually fell for when we were young is actually pretty insane. And also, this video got noticed by the man himself, so thank you, Pablo, I am very honored. Next, we have the Hoary Deep Hat Joy-Con review. Now, you know, I've just said that, you know, I don't want to just do reviews on things just because they're new, but, you know, the Hoary Deep Hat Joy-Con is actually a pretty controversial accessory when it was announced. I mean, you know, people are asking, like, why not go all the way, why all of these drawbacks and such? So when I managed to get a Japanese version early, you know, it didn't came out in America until much later, I felt it just made sense to, you know, just make a video closely examining it just to see what it can or can't do. And you know, I wasn't even focusing on the drawbacks that everyone knows about this thing. Like, you know, everyone knows that you can't use this thing outside of handheld mode. But I just wanted to show you guys how it actually functions, like whether it feels well, functions well, you know, does it actually fulfill its specific purpose of being a D-pad solution for handheld mode. And in that term, it actually functions pretty well. The D-pad itself is pretty dang fine. And I also wanted to specifically talk about whether or not the drawbacks of the D-pad Joy-Con actually affect your enjoyment when you're using it, because, you know, it doesn't have motion controls or HD rumble, but when you attach it to the system, the right Joy-Con can pick up like most of the slack. So in honest, it's not too big of a trade-off, and with that price, it's actually a pretty decent investment if you just want a good D-pad. So yeah, I feel that this is a pretty comprehensive review, you know, talking about the form factor, build quality, and the like, because, you know, I feel like when you're doing your review video, it should be important that you cover every aspect, almost every aspect of, you know, what you're reviewing, even though it's like a very small detail, because, you know, when you try to use it yourself, you would most definitely notice these kinds of things and how it affects your experience with it. So yeah. Next up, we have the Play and Micro video. So this one is something that I never imagined I would ever cover, because the Play and Micro itself is just such a rare little thing. But it's definitely something that once I got my hands on it, I just had to make a video on it, because like barely anyone recognizes Play and outside of Rhythm Heaven basically. And I think I also went pretty in depth in discussing the thing, like besides its basic functionalities, I also talked about its ease of use in 2018, because, you know, it supports outdated formats, and adding videos and music onto it isn't really as simple as just dragging videos and music into a folder. You have to convert videos and all that. So yeah, I think like when it comes to these kinds of videos about, you know, obscure or interesting tech or hardware, I usually think that the biggest hook is just getting to know more about the thing in question. So usually I don't try to put a lot of humorous elements, or just trying to like put like tons of gags and jokes into a video like this. Well, like, except the skit at the beginning there, I think that was a pretty good idea. The part where I'm stuck inside a Game Boy Micro, that was actually suggested to me by my Patreon patrons. So thank you guys. I think the only regret that I have with this video is that there aren't really many options for me to record high quality footage of the PlayM Micro software itself, because I have a Game Boy Micro with a with a bright screen, but it's a bit hard to record with my current camera equipment. And I also have the GBA SP, but that's a front-lit model, so it doesn't have the best screen quality. And I can't just use an emulator because it's a PlayM Micro. There's probably some guy out there who's emulated a PlayM Micro, but I don't know how to do that. You've got the SD card files and all that. No, I'm not gonna try to bother with that. So I could also have a Game Boy player accessory to record it from the screen, but I don't have a GameCube or a Game Boy player, so there's all that. And yeah, it's a bit of a missed opportunity, but I have limited resources, so not everything is possible for me, unfortunately. But besides from that, I liked how this video turned out. When you look up PlayM Micro on YouTube, there aren't really that many videos. So yeah, I'm glad I was able to at least contribute a little bit to sharing more knowledge about this thing with all of you, especially since I have the rare opportunity and chance to get it for a pretty decent price actually. Lastly, we have how Super Mario 3D Land saved the 3DS. This one is another big one. And if I haven't mentioned it enough times already, I hit quite a few snacks when I was making this one. So I started producing this video in February. I wrote the script about, how 3D Land saved the 3DS. That's a pretty interesting topic. And I captured some footage. I was wondering how to capture footage from a 3DS. And at that time, the only solution that I had was actually to record using homebrew software. And but that came with its own downsides. The quality wasn't that great. There were some frame rate stutters and all that. And then I recorded like half of the script with my crappy microphone. And then I got a 3DS capture card. And then, because I wanted this video to be my first core video where I used the 3DS capture card to do recording, I ended up wanting to, redo everything. And then I took a look at the script again, and then I realized it wasn't really that great. This was like a few months later. I feel like I was kind of like putting focus on the wrong area. Instead, like I was trying to review 3D Land or something, when I was trying to, put more focus on, how specifically it was designed around the 3DS's 3D effect, and how it played a role in, the history of the 3DS itself. So, I took around asking some of my online friends for help, got some, did some further research into it, found some interesting study material, and reworked the script. And then I had to, record footage, not just from the 3DS itself, but also the Wii U and the Switch, because I had 3D World and Odyssey footage, and then I have tons of other 3DS games to record, and then it just took quite a while to actually finish. But at the end, I think it was a pretty good video actually. The research process for this video was also fairly interesting, because not a lot of people really know that much about the inner workings of the 3DS's 3D effect. So, having to talk about concepts like the reference plane, or how to design a game in 3D so that it doesn't put strains on players' eyes, is actually a pretty interesting topic to tackle and to, describe clearly without too much confusion. And despite this being a video that's focused more on, Nintendo history, I tried to experiment more with, adding jokes and gags into the video every now and then. And yeah, boy, did I have to experiment. Not every joke actually sticks once you add them into your video. So there was gonna be like an Undertale joke when I talked about the parallax barrier, because, barriers. And then there was a joke based on Tengo's Gra. I don't know why I added that in, but I'm thankful that I removed it. But yeah, in the end, I think it's got, the video just got like the right amount of humor. So I'm gonna try to, strike this balance next time I make some video that's similar to that, I guess. So yeah, it might have took a while to make, but I honestly think that this is one of my most favorite videos that I've made during 2018, because, not just in terms of the research or the writing, I also tried to get a bit more creative with the editing. If you've watched the video, there are some certain parts where you can see some more elaborate scenes, so to speak. So yeah, I think I'm pretty proud of how this one turned out. And that's about it for the core videos of 2018. I think there's definitely still some room for improvement. You know, sometimes I find like missed potential, or I could have gone a bit more in depth about a certain specific thing. But I felt like I did a pretty good job with, you know, the resources and time that I had. It is a bit disappointing that I only had 8 core videos this year, considering at the beginning of the year, I actually planned to have 1 core video out per month, but that quickly turned out to be unfeasible because I had college work and all that. So I definitely have to thank all of my YouTube subscribers, as well as especially my Patreon patrons, for their patience, because in the end, I just want to, you know, make videos that can be enjoyed for potentially years to come. And, you know, even when you look back at them a while later, it can still just be as enjoyable. Well, you know, besides, you know, outdated recording quality, but hopefully that doesn't affect your enjoyment of these videos too much. And yeah, I think I've rambled on for long enough. I can imagine that it must be really painful for you to listen to a non-native English speaker ramble about his core videos for, you know, like nearly half an hour. So if you truly did stick around until the end, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It's been a pretty wild year. I had a very considerable growth, and I got in touch with a lot of creators I looked up to, met a lot of friends, and you know, I just want to thank you guys once again for the support. 2018 is still just the beginning, and I really hope that next year will be even better. I did promise previously on YouTube and Twitter that I will be answering some of you guys' questions about the core videos, but really, I don't think I have enough time for that right now in this recording session, so I'll put those in the description below so you can read those to your heart's content. And with that, thank you guys so much, have a wonderful new year, and I will see you guys in 2019 with an updated new look for my channel. Until next time, MVBBY.